Imagine this. You've spent months preparing for the LSAT, you've got your study schedule locked in, you've drilled every question type, and you finally figured out how to manage your time on test day. Then, overnight, the test changes. This is not a hypothetical. It's exactly what happened last year when LSAC removed the logic games section from the LSAT completely. No partial phase out, no hybrid version, just gone entirely. Thousands of students, maybe even tens of thousands, spent hundreds of hours learning how to diagram game setups, build conditional chains, and identify common game types. Then LSAC confirmed the change. Starting after the June 2024 LSAT, logic games were no longer part of the test. Of course, this wasn't a total surprise. We were aware of the lawsuits and they'd hinted at it for years, but the exact timing was a surprise. Many students had no idea if the test date they were aiming for would still include logic games. And when LSAC finally drew that line in the sand, students who had bet on a later LSAT test date were left scrambling. Now, let's fast forward to 2025. For months, the LSAT world has been waiting for LSAC to announce the next big change, scoring the writing sample. The writing sample has, of course, been around for decades, but up until now, it's never counted towards your LSAT score. Most people barely think about it. You write a short essay under time pressure, it's unscored, and so for that reason, you just move on. But recently, there has been talk of changing that. Law schools want a sample of your writing that wasn't drafted by ChatGPT or edited to death by consultants. They want something real that's written under pressure. And LSAC has been listening because, of course, they exist first and foremost to serve law schools, not students. So they've been testing out different formats and they've been collecting writing samples for research. And now we know the writing sample won't be scored in the coming admissions cycle 2025 through 2026. And so if you're taking the LSAT anytime between now and June of 2026, you can stop worrying about a scored writing sample. Logical reasoning and reading comp are the only scored sections. They're really the only ones that matter. The current version of the LSAT is probably the easiest one ever to study for because you've only got to master those two sections, reasoning and reading comp, and any gains you make in logical reasoning will be doubled across those two scored sections. And so this is why now is the best time to take the LSAT. Now, a lot of students might hear no writing sample change and think, cool, I can relax. But that is a mistake because while the test structure isn't changing this year, the competition has. Law school applications are rising, LSAT medians are rising, and scholarships are getting harder to earn. More students than ever before are applying with 170 plus LSAT scores. And what used to be a solid score, say a 165, is now average at many competitive law schools. That's called score inflation. And that means that even without a new section to study, the pressure to perform is higher than ever. You can't afford to wait until next cycle and hope the curve flattens out. Now let me tell you about one student I heard from. We'll call him Mike. Mike had spent months perfecting logic games. He was really good at them. He had game types categorized, timing down to the minute, diagrams that looked beautiful. It was his best section. Then, LSAC finally removed the logic games section. And that announcement made huge chunks of Mike's prep completely irrelevant. He still had time to adjust, but suddenly he had to shift focus and build up his strengths in logical reasoning and reading comp, leading to more stress than was necessary. He pulled it off, but it was frustrating and it wasn't his fault. If he had tested just 2 months earlier, all that logic games mastery would have counted. Instead, it became totally wasted effort. And that's what happens when you prepare for a moving target. Right now, this cycle, the writing sample is still unscored, but LSAC is actively evaluating scoring it in the near future. And that means a change could happen as early as this time next year. You don't want to be stuck mid-prep when the next announcement drops. And so if you're planning on taking the LSAT soon, here's how to make the most of this moment before things change again. First, you want to pick your test date and lock it in. The sooner, the better. You don't have to rush, but you don't want to drag your feet either. August, September, October, and November are all great options. And the sooner you lock in the score, the earlier you can apply when more scholarship money is available and the odds of getting in are a bit higher. You also want to focus on what moves the needle. Logical reasoning and reading comp are your only scored sections. That's where every point counts. So you don't want to waste time over preparing the writing sample. It's not scored at the moment, so focus on what will actually impact your score, and that's what law schools truly care about. Third, you want to create a daily study habit because cramming does not work for a test like the LSAT. It's a test, first and foremost, of pattern recognition. The students who win are the ones who show up consistently, even for just 30, 60 minutes a day. Create a study schedule that fits your life and stick to it. Fourth, you want to take timed full-length practice tests because the sooner you start simulating the actual exam, the better. So you want to prep under real conditions, strict timing, built-in breaks, zero distractions. You want test day to feel familiar before it actually gets here. And of course, you want to stay up to date with the changes, stay in the loop. Even though the writing sample isn't changing this cycle, LSAC can move quickly. So keep an eye on all the updates so you're never blindsided. Knowing what's coming, even a month ahead, can make all the difference.